Welcome to the TrueRotarian Podcast. This podcast is specially designed for all the true Rotarians by a true Rotarian. Ladies and gentlemen, today's episode focuses on recent disruptions in India's civil aviation sector that affected lakhs of passengers and raised important questions about preparedness, regulation, and growth.
There was a new winter schedule announced by the airline, which meant that it was ready to fly more aircrafts and fly more routes in the air. That means they had all the wherewithals to put additional flights into the winter schedule. But when it got implemented, lo and behold, everything just snapped. And air transport is a quicker form of transport. Nothing much more, nothing less. It's also that transport which takes you to the hills, across the hills and dales of the country. It makes you go from Kashmir to Kanyakumari in 3.5 hours. Now, also, as you know, as we all know, a second airport being inaugurated anytime next month by the Prime Minister. The second airport in Delhi and the second airport in Mumbai already inaugurated last month by him.
Hello and welcome to TrueRotarian Podcast, where we talk about stories of services to the underprivileged, and we invite people who have got a lot of experience of giving back to the society and changing lives. Ladies and gentlemen, some time ago, we had an episode with Mr. Naveen Berry on India's tourism beyond destinations. Recently, we all have seen some disruption, a lot of disruption in recent years. And today's episode is basically designed after we got so much of requests from our viewers to talk about reason for this particular disruption. Today's episode focuses on what went wrong in India's civil aviation sector that affected lakhs of passengers and raised important questions about preparedness, regulation, and growth. To help us understand this objectively, I'm joined by Mr. Naveen Berry, a veteran of Indian tourism and aviation for over 5 decades of experience. These questions are framed to encourage expert insight and public interest discussions without being accusatory or personal. So once again, it is my indeed pleasure and honor to welcome a legendary figure in the tourism industry, Mr. Naveen Berry. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Hemant. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure being with you so soon after our first incident. I don't know whether you have used filters or your colleague has done some jugglery, but our recording did turn out very well. Though you morphed my voice well and put words in my mouth, it came out very successful. Thank you very much.
Actually, in the entire social media, the entire viewership was much beyond our expectations. On Instagram itself, we crossed over 1.5 lakh views, and on other social platforms like Facebook, and we had similar views. And also on our YouTube.
I'm sure you have good reason to be flattered.
No. It's
Yes.
only the honor, goes to you. Credit goes to you and people who come on this platform. I only ask questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, welcome
Indeed
to
a
you
pleasure.
once
Yes.
again, sir.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's episode focuses on recent disruptions in India's civil aviation sector that affected lakhs of passengers and raised important questions about preparedness, regulation, and growth. As I mentioned to you, a lot of you asked us to do this program, so I requested Mr. Berry once again to visit our podcast and talk to you about the reasons for this. Before we go into this further, I think our basic things that we are going to talk about are basically to encourage, people to be prepared, India to be prepared with this kind of a crisis. We want an expert insight and a public interest discussions without being, obviously we can't accuse anybody or being can't be personal, but yes, anybody and everybody was affected by this particular disruption. Now, for the benefit of our viewers, could you briefly explain what FDTL rules are meant to ensure?
Well, Evan, thank you again, once again. And I just want to make a confession. Aviation is a very complex subject. And being in tourism or being an avid reader or a student of how our aviation industry has grown in the last 30, 40 years is still my perspective from the outside. I am not an aviation person per se, but then there is a certain amount of a background which I have, which I can share with you. If you're talking about the disruption itself per se, from what we gather, there was going to be a revision in flight duty timings and regulations
Yes.
for the pilots. Now, this was introduced with a deadline once. The deadline was put in abeyance, postponed to be implemented on the request, I presume, of IndiGo. It happened a second time. Again, it was requested that it may be put into abeyance. The third time, lo and behold, funnily enough, too many things were happening at that time. There was a new winter schedule announced by the airline, which meant that it was ready to fly more aircrafts and fly more routes in the air. That means they had all the wherewithals to put additional flights into the winter schedule. But when it got implemented, lo and behold, everything just snapped. Now, there is nothing out in public domain, and I'm not privy to any inside information. But very obviously, the flight duty timing regulation, the FDTL, when it was being implemented, it snapped.
Okay.
And the airline explanation is that something happened, something misfired. They couldn't put the rosters together or whatever, and they just had to cancel flights.
Right. Let me just come back on this again. I personally feel you are an expert in tourism. 5 decades you have spent in this particular trade. As you mentioned, you may not be expert in the aviation industry, but aviation is very much part of tourism. Now, the hotel industry can't do a thing if planes don't fly. Business will go top if planes go this thing. I think in being an expert in tourism, to understand the reasons and also to suggest to the people who matter that what should have been done. I think that is the core issue of our topic today.
Where we went wrong or where we could have possibly gone wrong.
Yes.
So let me just take back a few decades in the journey of Indian aviation.
Yes.
Till even now, somewhere, though the perception may have changed dramatically in recent times, let's say last 10, 15 years, but aviation was always considered elitist. It was meant for the wealthy. It was meant for the more affluent. So it tended to be looked down upon as opposed to going by bus or by train. Aviation was elitist luxury. We haven't still come out of that mindset. Now, the proof of the pudding is, as you know, in the eating, and you do serve some of the best pudding in town. So, here the question here is taxation. You want to milk the industry and see whatever you can extract out of it because you think it's still elitist. I've been repeatedly saying for many years, over deaf years, a lot of departments or activities of the government of India in the various ministries, they have changed their nomenclature in keeping with the market forces, perceptions, or whatever. It is high time that civil aviation, as a fancy subject, should be stripped of its luxury and elitist connotations. It actually is simply put air transport. Just like road transport, rail transport, there is air transport. There is nothing elite about it.
Yes.
And air transport is a quicker form of transport. Nothing much more, nothing less. It's also that transport which takes you to the hills, across the hills and dales of the country. It makes you go from Kashmir to Kanyakumari in 3.5 hours.
Yes.
How long would it take you to take a train? It's the convenience of doing business, the ease in travel. So air transport is now critical.
Critically, absolutely.
Now,
correct.
the government recognizes that, because if you see the various programs, the UDAN program recognizes that air connectivity is critical to economic growth. So that is fundamental. Now, the rules of the game, and since you asked me what is the road ahead, I think stripping the industry of elitism, of luxury,
That is the
and bringing
important.
it down to a level of simple air transport.
Absolutely.
So once you do that, then I think, ironically, this meltdown at IndiGo, recent one, where everything just fell apart, nobody knew what was happening, is a big vantage point when we need to see what has happened behind us in terms of air transport industry growth and where is the future likely to be.
So-
There is no looking back. Just remember, forget IndiGo, forget any airline. Air transport is critical to Indian growth story. You cannot stall air transport.
No, you cannot.
You know. Now, also, as you know, as we all know, a second airport being inaugurated anytime next month by the Prime Minister. The second airport in Delhi and the second airport in Mumbai already inaugurated last month by him. There is Guwahati International Airport just inaugurated by him by a few days ago. So airport growth is phenomenal across the country.
Yes.
Across the country. Adani Group has pledged to buy another 11 airports in the next installment of privatization or whatever.
Okay.
They're already running Ahmedabad, Lucknow, and so many others.
Right.
So there is huge money being invested in airport infrastructure.
Yes.
And the interest which I want to put across, over the years, we've had a spurt in airport development. At another time, we've had a spurt in airline development. Sometimes something, sometimes something. I have a feeling that we have tended to look at each of these segments in isolation. Airport wale aaye, unhone kuch bola. Airline wale aaye, unhone kuch bola. We need an ecosystem. So over a period of time, my suspicion is that each of these verticals within the air transport industry, they have been looked upon and grown in themselves. You need an ecosystem where each vertical not survives, but sustains and thrives. You see, I mean, it's a no-brainer. any industry in which people are going to invest must provide a return. There are stakeholders, there are people who have bought shares. These are publicly traded companies. The airlines have a responsibility to the investor. So you can't just go down, so to
You're
say.
right. What you're saying is basically that all the stakeholders or the ecosystems have to collaborate together to exist together and to grow together.
Thrive.
Thrive together.
Because only when they will thrive will they put in more money into it.
Absolutely.
An airline will add more aircrafts.
Yes.
An airport operator will say, let me extend my terminals, extend my runways. So all that growth will happen only on the back of good money being earned by the system.
Absolutely.
I have a simple point. If you don't look after the pilots, if you do not care after the pilots, who will fly the aircraft?
True.
If the aircraft is not sustainable to fly, where will be the aircrafts that those pilots can fly?
Yeah.
And if neither of those two are sustainable, then what happens to the airports that you're building?
Absolutely.
So we need all of these components to work in sync. Everybody is critical.
Complementary to each other. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
the pilot safety is paramount.
important. Yeah, absolutely.
But then so is profitability of the system,
yes.
sustainability of the system.
True. Now, starting again with FDTL regulations and things like that, there was enough time available, as you mentioned.
Right.
But the implementation about this was slightly faulty, or there was something was not right. Could a phased or a consultative approach have reduced or could have reduced the passenger inconvenience?
My overall rider,
Yes.
I am not privy, I'll repeat again, to anything as inside information or
Of the aviation industry.
because
That's right.
nobody is actually speaking to say this is
Yes.
exactly what happened. So my answer is basically a surmise.
Yes.
I hope it's not terribly off the mark, but it could be. I have no idea. But what I suspect is, and I think this could be a crunch, that I did some search on the internet. The FDTL rules that we were introducing. What are the rules, similar rules prevailing in the US,
Other countries.
in Europe? And I came to some answers which I frankly haven't tested them out with anybody. But I think somewhere those FDTL rules that they were trying to put into place may have brought about 5 to 8% fall in productivity of IndiGo,
Okay.
which in itself would mean a major impact
And the
on
bottom line.
IndiGo's growth, because
Yes.
these rules are very important. They ensure safety of the pilot,
Passengers.
therefore of the passenger, and therefore of the air transport system. So
Yes.
they're very critical. But I'm not sure, because when I Google searched a lot of it, that they were more in tune with legacy carriers, long haul traffic. The Indian market, as it has evolved over the last 10, 15 years, is terribly a low cost model.
Yes.
And it's a high frequency model. Now, a pilot fatigue depends also on how many short flights you take.
Yes.
It also depends on how many, say you're flying for 6 hours. But in those 6 hours, you took 3 ups and 3 downs, and you went into 3 airports on a hopper service. And on the other hand, you had a 6-hour flight. You cruised from point A to point B. The fatigue is obviously more
Yes.
in the short haul. Now, India is also a heavy fatigue market. There is congestion at the airports.
Yes.
there is weather conditions happening, fog. There's a lot of critical elements. So
yes.
India, so we need obviously a lot of pilot care, but I think somewhere the FDTL rules also need to factor in the fact that fatigue is not a common factor of 6 hours, for instance. It will be different on different ways
Circumstances.
that you are servicing the aircraft.
Yeah, makes
So I
sense.
think some of that calibration needs to be deliberated further. I'm not, again, a rider. This is what my Google search has told me. I have a lot of it. What are the rules in America and what are the rules in India? And some of it which is happening here is, and I will tell you this, which I wrote down here, that sector-weighted fatigue accounting, sector-weighted fatigue accounting, that needs to be introduced somewhere. Night duty. Night duty, now again, for different airlines, from what I've gathered, IndiGo was heavily dependent on night flying,
Okay.
or what we call the window of night flying, 12 to 6, which other airlines are flying less. Now, if you see the system at the moment, IndiGo with 65% market share. Air India, on the other hand, has about, I think, 25 or something.
Yes.
Now, Air India, between Air India is Air India Express and Air India, which is a legacy carrier. So the impact of a lot of it would be mostly felt on IndiGo, which is a low-cost model and high frequency driven routes.
Yes.
So I think these rules were impacting them more than they were impacting the others. Now, I have actually no knowledge at all, but I think by the sequence of events, I still don't know why they were not ready to implement them the third time. When you had this window,
Yeah.
how come you were not ready to implement them given your efficiency? And we do know that IndiGo has proved itself over the period of time to be a highly efficient and a highly successful airline.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, one thing that weighs upon my mind, and I think we need to understand again as a common man, ever since we privatized air transport, and I'm using air transport by choice as against aviation. You remember the good old days, there used to be 2 flights of Indian Airlines, one in the morning, one in the evening, Delhi, Mumbai.
I have been
हाँ, तो बड़ा सिंपल था, बम्बई जा रहा हूँ, सुबह की फ्लाइट, शाम की फ्लाइट.
186, if I remember, and 803.
So that's it.
Way back in 70s.
But
yes.
that's it. Now from there, where have you reached?
Yes.
Where have you reached?
Every hour probably.
Every hour, nahi. Every minute there's a takeoff to Bombay. I mean, I think there's some 80, 90 flights between the two cities.
Two cities, that's right.
One of the, we call these city pairs. Now, Delhi-Mumbai city pair is one of the heaviest city pairs in Asia. So that much we have accomplished. And what have we gone over this period? One after the other, airlines have gone down.
Absolutely.
Indian Airlines, by choice, we removed it out of our system. It was ailing at that time in any case. Ailing because of whatever reasons you want to put on the picture. You had Jet Airways, you had Kingfisher, you had
Deccan
Air Sahara, you had
Deccan.
Air Deccan, you had now Go Air.
Yes.
Now, if you see the pattern of all of them, they were all passionate flyers or people who had a passion for
Aviation industry.
air transport, or
yeah.
aviation, for flying. They had some connect with the aviation world from before, but none of them had a deep pocket.
Yes.
Now, if I remember the story of IndiGo, it also started small. It grew over the last 20 years, thanks to a very efficient, strictly regimented and controlled and implemented, shall I call it, discipline, with no wavering. It created a model of its own. It ordered aircrafts. When the aircraft was being delivered, it sold that aircraft. So it made a cushion of profit.
Oh, okay.
Then it leased that aircraft from a leasing company, and then he was paying lease on that aircraft. So he was creating a buffer for himself through that little money that they would make by ordering aircrafts and selling them at the point of delivery.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I didn't know about that.
I also suspect that over a period of time, to keep the efficiencies going, to keep the sustainability going, they were testing themselves too tight. Too tight. And so one of the reasons why FDTL implementation could have snapped is that the system was already too terse.
Too tight, yeah.
Too terse. So when you touched it, it's just snapped.
Okay, okay.
So you're using, I don't know the technical word, but a certain number of pilots for a certain number of routes in a manner that you are getting the maximum efficiency out of them and deployment on routes to maximize your earnings.
Okay.
That's where it's
One of those things.
It was already too
And
tense.
some people were also probably saying that communication gap between the regulator and the airlines operators could have also resulted in this particular disruption.
I stand corrected. When I was talking about the ecosystem, one very important cog in the wheel, or one very important part of that wheel, I wouldn't call it cog, but important part of the wheel, is the regulator. Now, we have regulators in telecom.
Yes.
Try. We have regulators otherwise in other industries where they need. In the banking system, there's an
Insurance
RBI.
sector, I mean, everywhere.
Now, in the air transport industry, we have the DGCA. From all accounts, I'm sure DGCA has been acquitting itself to the best of its ability. I don't think I would like to fault the DGCA in itself. But given the growth of the industry, DGCA at the moment is said to be employing half of its sanctioned staff.
Oh.
So they are that short staffed.
Oh.
DGCA at the moment is always being run by an IAS officer. We have a very fine person today, Mr. Kidwai, as the DGCA. His background is of Indian Forest Service. I'm sure IAS and all the service people have been trained to adapt themselves to an industry or a vertical, whichever they've been assigned. But a lot of these industries over a period of time are becoming extraordinarily technical and require a lot of skills and a lot of exposure to the industry before you become critical as being the big executor. So in this roadmap that we are looking at, independence of the regulator is also very important. It can't be just a government department. The touchstone of a regulator is the Federal Aviation Authority in America. It is supposed to hold its head high, penalize aircrafts, penalize airlines, penalize whatever you want. It has to uphold the system and the safety.
No political interference.
No, interference to badi dur ki baat gayi. It can't be just a government department. It has to
cannot be
be
done.
Aviation Authority of India, manned by somebody. Again, we'll have a problem getting a foreigner because these are very intricate, complex jobs. There's a question mark at times we keep raising on the CEO of IndiGo or the CEO of Air India being foreigners. The CEO of the Noida airport is a foreigner. So these require clearances from the government separately. But question here is, who will head it is not the question. But you do need a fully empowered, fully staffed federal authority, which has all the wherewithal which is required. I don't know, but I'm sure if you're using only half your sanction strength, then
Alarm
there also
should
there
ring,
must be
yes.
some strains there in the
Absolutely.
system.
Absolutely.
So for that ecosystem which I was talking about earlier, the FAA of India, the DGCA, also needs to be fully skilled and fully empowered and fully independent.
Right.
That's another important thing.
Now, IndiGo today commands a very large market share. How did this level of dominance evolve over a period of time?
I think no magic to it. But to my mind, it's a very simple equation. You have an airline which has pursued very doggedly one aircraft type. Till a year ago or so, they were employing only one aircraft type,
Okay.
which meant least maintenance cost because I have only one type of aircraft. It's to the credit of the IndiGo ownership, they only wanted to run a efficient, enviable airline. There was no other, no hocus pocus. In the good old days, we started these airlines. So there was one airline that was doing fashion ramp shows up in the air. You remember?
Yeah.
The
I
Mania
love that. Yeah.
started doing fashion shows, thriving on liquor being served. So
Yes.
then alcohol was stopped on. So I think IndiGo's success story, focused, dedicated, fully committed to their growth model, and lean, very lean, and thriving on it. It's only recently that they have moved out of one single aircraft type. In the meanwhile, what was happening? Airlines were falling off. Now, if you want to say that they were making them fall off, I think that's absurd.
No, that's not possible.
So, others were not. You see, you must answer one question. From public domain again, when the government was trying to hive off Air India, till recently, till 4 years ago, they were not finding buyers. According to whatever one knows from public domain, Air India was prevailed upon by the government कि भाई तुम इसको ले लो और चलाओ. And Air India at that time, Ratan Tata, with his passion, he was the pilot, and his JRD's legacy of Air
Yes,
India.
absolutely.
So I think it was more an emotive issue for them. Ki, let's take it back. They weren't seeing money in it. So it brings me back to the original question which you asked, the ecosystem. There isn't money in running an air transport. Why is there not money in running an air transport? I think this needs analysis, because only if airlines, if entrepreneurs, industrialists, businessmen see money, then the jolly well will come. If you see the legacy again of since the days that we privatized and we had the first influx of East, West and the Mania and whoever else, there's not a single corporate player of any known measure who has entered this industry, except for the Vadias, who came in and also went down. They couldn't manage. Go ahead. So today we need, and this is my submission, many sectors of the industry and commerce in the country are being supported through a program called PLI, which is a product linked incentive scheme.
Okay.
So we have given PLIs to, let's say, the smartphone sector, for instance, the electronic sector. So Samsung and all have started doubling in their production, claiming the product linked incentives. Some PLI kind of a scheme should be there for airlines.
So government has to chip in and
I think
come up
government
with
needs
innovative.
to provide a holding hand somewhere, as now realizing how critical air transport is.
Absolutely. Actually, my next question was that the role of government and regulators What should be the ideal role of government and regulators in balancing safety, growth, and profitability?
I don't have the answer to that, but I do know that that is what is the need of the hour.
Need of the hour, yeah.
As thrown into public space thanks to this meltdown at IndiGo.
It was a wake-up call.
It was a wake-up call.
Yes.
That we are treading on something which is, I will call it, little fragile. With let's say, see, we are the third largest aviation market now in the world. We are the fastest growing aviation market in the world.
Yeah, we are.
We've ordered the maximum number of aircrafts in the world between IndiGo and Air India. So we've got some 80% or so of India's inbound travel or international travel is through Delhi and Mumbai. We'll have two airports, functional airports. The second airports are not mini airports to a big airport. They're as big. And in the next 5-10 years, they'll be competing airport to airport in terms of capability. So all this will require a very, very strong foundation air transport ecosystem.
Absolutely. Now, in a crisis of this scale, should the accountability be institutional rather than personal?
Where do you see personal being called in?
No, it's, see, when personal, when we say it was IndiGo, but IndiGo had some issues of their own, which were sort of, when I say institutional, we were talking about the ecosystem. We cannot blame only the IndiGo for not implementing that particular regulation, because everybody is part of that. If they knew about it, they could have sort of foreseen the crisis and warned people.
See, even from media space.
Yeah, all media.
There is quite a few committees. The government has one committee of its own.
Yes.
IndiGo has instituted one committee of its own to find out what factors, where did the glitch happen. So we don't know where the glitch happened.
Where the glitch happened, yes.
But the glitch did happen. There was a glitch.
Glitch did happen.
Now, the glitch happened
because of personal or institutional or the entire
inability to implement when they went into implementation.
Yes.
So when they went into implementation, how and why they were unable to implement, that's
another story.
Another issue. But who should be called to take the blame?
So I'm sure since these inquiries are happening,
I think somewhere it's the system.
It will come because since the inquiries are still on its way, like they say.
But I just want one more issue to come up here. A lot of people have said, kind of speaking against IndiGo, IndiGo should be penalized, IndiGo should be this, IndiGo should be that. We don't want, we cannot afford.
We cannot afford it, no. 65% of the market
share. And the other thing is that there is no way the government can run an airline.
No.
They have washed their hands of Air India after considerable effort to get rid of white elephant. Air India in its new management has been persevering over the last 3 years to bring this act together. They're doing a Herculean job, placing aircrafts, placing this, doing that. So even they need handholding right now.
Yes.
And IndiGo at this time, I think, needs to be sat down with to see where the glitch happened and make sure that all the problems are analyzed, looked into and solved, without compromising air safety, sustainability of the air transport system, which means if IndiGo has a problem somewhere, we need to
all join hands together and
we need to sort it out.
You see, after all, an organization like IndiGo has been pretty right in the sense, in terms of their thinking, like you said, one aircraft theory, like you said, all timely sort of turnarounds and on-time departures and things like that. They've been doing some wonderful job. So probably somewhere down the line between 2 or 3 or 4 sort of factors, this problem did happen. But on the future, coming to the future, despite these challenges, are you optimistic about India's aviation future, considering the kind of investment which is coming in terms of not only hotels, airports, infrastructure, in terms of connectivity and things like that? These are all part of the same system, and our vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047.
It's all one.
It's absolutely one.
It's all one. And air transport is as critical as road transport, as rail transport.
Absolutely.
It can't be trifled with. It needs hand-holding. It needs government support.
Absolutely.
Support, nurturing, without interference, but with very precise oversight. If you see I was studying the airport ownership or airline ownership around major markets. America, all the airlines are private. UK, both the big airlines, private. Ryanair, private. EasyJet, private.
India is also private.
Sorry?
India is also private now.
No, there is, except for the Middle East, where all the airlines are actually state-financed or state-owned.
Yes.
And Singapore Airlines is owned by Temasek, which is a government arm for investing globally.
True.
But otherwise, China, obviously, while they run privately,
Yes.
but they're owned by the government. If we can put all our communication, your Airtel, your Vodafone, all of them are private.
Absolutely.
Your power supply, you putting BSNL, Tata Power, all of them private. Utilities and all should be managed by the private sector. There's no government role in it.
Absolutely.
But government must be able to exercise oversight.
Yes.
For instance, predatory pricing. Not only in airlines, but also in hotels.
Naveen, like I totally agree with you that it is the ecosystem which have to jointly look at things and come together so that this kind of an inconvenience to the public is avoided totally. Obviously, there is a wake-up call for the government to see why so many airlines are going down. I'm sure Government of India is already looking at it, and I'm sure the airline industry is also looking at things to avoid this kind of an inconvenience, because no businessman likes to see its customers suffering. Now, any message to the IndiGo for the coming future and things like that? And how do we go forward and make sure that this kind of a repetitive errors are not happen?
When you're talking about the government, I think just to wrap up from my side, yes, this sector must be able to excite, invite
More investors
to run airlines, to run more airports,
Yes.
without becoming monopolies.
Yes.
Now, monopolies is also a matter of market forces. If there is no one else and I'm the only one who's adding aircrafts and adding routes, then I will become a monopoly.
Yes.
Now, there's so much of a euphoria in today's newspapers that the government has given licenses to 2 or 3 airlines. And they're saying, see, we told you we will distribute. No, I don't know the credentials of these few new entrants. Full respect to them. I hope they have big pockets, that they can actually think big, think long term. It's a long term industry.
Yes.
So we will need to do that. But your question for IndiGo wake-up call, yes, for everyone, this has been a wake-up call. And I think for IndiGo, the way I should see it is that they must be able to somewhere loosen up their system. It's, like I said earlier, possibly when they tried to implement, they didn't find any more elasticity available to them in the system. And it just snapped. It's like a rubber band.
Yeah.
I mean, how much can you stretch?
You cannot stretch
You've
beyond a
stretched it
point.
to already the optimum. And the moment you try to do more, it just
Yes,
collapsed.
I think it's...
So I think they need to loosen that rubber band a little bit and see how... No, the government has already done that. They've loosened the rubber band by asking them to reduce capacity by 10%.
Yes.
So I think that reduction or that loosening has already happened. And I'm sure the government will make sure that unless they are convinced, this 10% is not coming back till they are very sure.
Fantastic.
But then they've also announced today a new flight Delhi to Heathrow on their long-haul aircrafts, which I said they were earlier single aircraft type airline. Now they're diversifying. They have long-haul aircrafts. So they're now moving into a domain where that also will test their system.
Naveen ji, thank you so much for sharing your insight. Today's discussion highlights the importance of preparedness, professionalism, and passenger interest in a rapidly growing aviation industry. The conversation is about learning and strengthening systems and not assigning any blames. I'm your host, Rotarian Hemant Bhasin from TrueRotarian Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have also a story to tell or an experience to share, please do write to us and it'll be a pleasure to call you on a show. And if you like our episodes, please do subscribe and like our channel. Thank you so much and Jai Hind.